Picture waking up in paradise. Blue Mediterranean sky, gentle sea breeze, vineyards on a sleeping mountain. Then at noon, the sky turns black. The mountain explodes. Rocks rain from heaven. In 24 hours, an entire city, frozen in time. Tonight, Pompeii, August 24th, 79 AD. The day 20,000 people had breakfast, not knowing they'd never have dinner. The last day of the Roman dream. Let me take you to Pompeii on August 23rd, 79 AD, the day before everything ended. Because to understand the tragedy, you need to understand what was lost. Pompeii wasn't just any Roman city. It was paradise. Wealthy Romans built vacation villas here, escaping Rome's summer heat for coastal breezes and mountain air. The city sat on the Bay of Naples, with the Mediterranean sparkling blue to the west and Mount Vesuvius rising green to the east. Perfect climate, fertile soil, natural beauty, everything you could want. The city had about 20,000 residents, a mix of wealthy Romans, local merchants, freed slaves, artisans, and workers. Not massive like Rome, but prosperous, sophisticated, comfortable. The kind of place where life was good and getting better. Walk through Pompeii that August morning. The streets are paved with large volcanic stones, ironically from previous Vesuvius eruptions thousands of years ago. Raised sidewalks keep pedestrians above the street filth. Stepping stones let you cross streets without getting your feet dirty. The engineering is Roman, practical, durable, elegant. The Forum bustles with activity. This is where business happens, where politicians give speeches, where citizens gather. Temples surround the Forum, honoring Jupiter, Apollo, Venus. Religion and commerce mixed together, gods watching over daily transactions. The shops are opening. Bakeries fill the air with bread smell. Archaeologists later found actual loaves of bread, carbonized but recognizable, sitting in ovens where bakers left them. Fulleries are washing wealthy citizens' togas. Thermopoliums, fast food restaurants, are setting out food in large clay jars embedded in stone counters. You can still see these counters today, preserved perfectly. The public baths are already busy. Romans loved bathing, not just for cleanliness, but for socializing. The baths have hot rooms, cold rooms, exercise areas, even libraries. Men and women bathe separately. The water is heated by wood fires, channeled through sophisticated plumbing. This is advanced civilization, comfort beyond what most of the world won't achieve for another 1,000 years. The amphitheater sits at the city's edge, capable of holding 20,000 spectators, the entire city population. Gladiator fights happen here, beast hunts, executions. Entertainment that seems barbaric now, but was normal then. Wealthy homes, called domus, are architectural masterpieces. Built around central courtyards with gardens, fountains, and pools for catching rainwater. Walls covered in frescoes showing myths, landscapes, daily life. Some are erotic. Pompeii was less prudish about sexuality than later Christian Europe. The colors are vivid reds, yellows, blacks, still bright after 2,000 years of burial. One famous house, the House of the Faun, has a mosaic floor showing Alexander the Great's battle with Persian King Darius, made from over 1 million tiny colored stones. This kind of luxury wasn't unusual in wealthy Pompeii homes. But not everyone lived in luxury. Workers lived in simpler homes or apartments above shops. Slaves, a significant portion of any Roman city's population, had even less. Pompeii was a hierarchical society, like all ancient civilizations. But even the poor lived in relative comfort compared to most of the ancient world. The mountain loomed over everything. Vesuvius, about 6 miles from the city, rose 4,200 feet above sea level. Its slopes were covered in vineyards, forests, farms. The soil was incredibly fertile. Volcanic soil always is, producing wines Pompeii was famous for. Nobody knew Vesuvius was a volcano. It hadn't erupted in human memory. It was just a mountain, providing beautiful backdrop and agricultural wealth. There had been warnings, though unrecognized. In 62 AD, 17 years before the eruption, a massive earthquake damaged Pompeii and nearby cities. The earthquake was actually caused by magma moving underground, the volcano reawaking after centuries of dormancy. But Romans didn't understand volcanology. They rebuilt, thinking it was just bad luck, one of those things that happens. On August 23rd, nobody was worried. Life was good. The city was prospering, trade was strong, buildings damaged in the earthquake had been repaired or were being rebuilt. Pompeii was looking forward to a bright future. That morning, merchants opened their shops. Bakers fired their ovens. Priests prepared temple sacrifices. Children played in the streets. Slaves worked. The rich relaxed in their gardens. Ordinary life, ordinary day. Nothing special. Around noon, people eat lunch. Romans typically had one main meal in the afternoon. Bread, olive oil, wine, fish, vegetables, fruit. The wealthy ate more elaborate meals with multiple courses. The poor ate simpler fare. But everyone ate, drank, talked, laughed. Just another August day in paradise. As the afternoon progresses, the heat builds. This is southern Italy in late summer. Hot, bright Mediterranean sun beating down. People seek shade, drink cool water from public fountains, wait for evening, when temperatures will drop and sea breezes will bring relief. Some people notice strange things. Dogs acting nervous, barking at nothing. Birds flying away from the mountain. Wells and springs changing their flow. But these signs are subtle, easy to dismiss. Animals get nervous. Water levels fluctuate. Nothing to worry about. As evening approaches, the city starts coming alive again. The streets fill. The baths get crowded. Wine flows. Music plays. Conversations happen. Life continues. This is Pompeii at its peak. Prosperous, comfortable, confident. A Roman paradise that believes tomorrow will be exactly like today. Night falls over Pompeii, and the city transforms into something magical. Oil lamps flicker to life along the streets, their warm glow reflecting off white-painted walls. Some wealthy families host dinner parties, elaborate affairs with multiple courses, entertainment, wine, conversation lasting hours. Imagine being invited to one of these gatherings. You recline on couches arranged around low tables, Roman style. Slaves bring course after course, fish, meat, vegetables, fruits, all prepared with exotic spices and sauces. Wine flows freely, mixed with water as Romans prefer it. The conversation is animated. Politics, philosophy, gossip, business deals. Someone tells a joke. Laughter fills the room. A musician plays the lyre. Outside, through the open courtyard, you can see stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The air is warm but pleasant, cooled by evening breezes from the sea. This is the good life, Roman style. This is what wealth and civilization can create. Comfort, beauty, pleasure, community. Other families have simpler dinners: bread, cheese, olives, perhaps some fish. Children are put to bed, their small voices fading as sleep takes them. Parents might sit in their courtyard for a while, enjoying the cool evening air, talking quietly about the day, making plans for tomorrow. A merchant calculates profits from today's sales. A baker prepares dough for tomorrow's bread. A weaver plans the next day's work. Along the streets, some people are still out. Young men drinking in taverns, their voices loud and cheerful. Prostitutes standing in doorways, calling to potential customers. Guards making their rounds, checking that shops are locked, that no trouble is brewing. The city gradually quiets as people retire for the night. Lamps are extinguished. Conversations fade. Footsteps become less frequent. Around midnight, most of Pompeii sleeps. A few people are still awake. Guards on duty, late-night drinkers in taverns, someone tending to a sick family member, a mother nursing an infant. But most are in bed, breathing steadily in sleep, unaware that they're experiencing their last hours of normalcy. In wealthy homes, people sleep on comfortable beds with fine linens. In poor homes, on simpler pallets. But everyone sleeps, exhausted from the day's activities, ready to rest and recover for tomorrow. Underground, beneath Vesuvius, things are happening that no one on the surface can detect. Magma that has been building pressure for centuries is reaching a critical point. The volcano is about to violently release energy equivalent to many atomic bombs. Deep in the earth, rock is fracturing, gas is escaping, pressure is building toward the moment of release. But on the surface, in Pompeii, nothing seems wrong. The stars are out, the air is still. The city sleeps peacefully. This is the cruel thing about disasters. They arrive without adequate warning. The people of Pompeii went to bed thinking tomorrow would be like today. They made plans for next week, next month, next year. A merchant planned a business trip to Rome. A young couple looked forward to their wedding in the fall. A mother thought about her child's education. A craftsman planned the next piece he would create. They had dreams, goals, worries about ordinary things. They had no idea that tomorrow, their world would end. In one home, a family sleeps together. Parents, children, perhaps grandparents, all under one roof. The father's arm is around his wife. The children are curled up in their beds, dreaming whatever children dream. In another home, a wealthy man sleeps alone in his grand bedroom, surrounded by expensive furniture and beautiful frescoes. In a cramped apartment, several families share space, sleeping wherever they can find room. Everyone sleeps. Everyone is vulnerable. Everyone is unaware. A dog barks somewhere in the city. Not the normal bark of a dog who's heard something specific. This is an anxious, nervous bark. The dog senses something wrong, something its animal instincts detect but can't articulate. Other dogs join in. For a few minutes, the city echoes with canine anxiety. Then silence returns. The dogs quiet down, though their unease remains. If anyone was woken by the barking, they probably just rolled over and went back to sleep. Just dogs being dogs, nothing to worry about. The hours pass. Midnight becomes 1 a.m., then 2 a.m., then 3 a.m. The city remains peaceful. The stars wheeled slowly across the sky. The moon, nearly full, casts silver light over Pompeii, making the white buildings glow softly. It's beautiful, serene, perfect. This is the world at peace, humanity at rest, civilization sleeping in comfort and security. These are the last hours of normalcy. The final moments when Pompeii exists as a living city rather than a future archaeological site. Around 4 a.m., some people begin to stir. Early risers, bakers who need to start their ovens, merchants who want to get to market early, slaves who have morning chores. They move quietly through the dark streets, carrying lamps, their footsteps echoing softly on stone. They don't know they're among the lucky ones. These early risers will have slightly more time to react when disaster strikes. But even they don't know what's coming. Sunrise comes around 6 a.m. The sky lightens gradually, first grey, then pink, then gold, as the sun appears over the mountains to the east. Birds begin to sing. The city wakes up. More people emerge from their homes. Shops begin to open. The fountains that run continuously through the city's aqueduct system sparkle in the morning light. Another day begins in Pompeii. August 24th, 79 AD. The last day. But for now, in these early morning hours, everything seems normal. Bakers are firing their ovens. Street vendors are setting up. Children who have to do morning chores are being roused from bed, grumbling sleepily. Life is continuing as it always has, as it always will. Except it won't. In just a few hours, everything will change. But for now, Pompeii lives, breathes, functions. For now, it's still a city of the living. The morning of August 24th begins like any other morning. The sun rises, the air warms, and Pompeii comes alive with the usual sounds and activities. But if you pay close attention, if you're sensitive to subtle changes, you might notice that something is slightly off. The animals are behaving strangely. Dogs are nervous, pacing, whining for no apparent reason. Horses in stables are restless, stamping their feet, tossing their heads. Birds, usually chattering and singing at this time of day, are quieter than usual. Some are flying away from the mountain in large flocks. Around mid-morning, small earthquakes begin. Not dramatic, just tremors that make water in fountains ripple, that cause slight rattling of pottery on shelves. Pompeians notice but aren't alarmed. Earthquakes had been common since the big one in 62 AD. They'd learned to live with occasional tremors. This seems like more of the same, inconvenient but not dangerous. People steady wobbling objects, make jokes about the ground being restless, then continue with their day. But these tremors are different from the usual earthquakes. They're more frequent, coming every few minutes instead of every few days or weeks. They're also slightly stronger, more persistent. If seismologists existed in 79 AD, they would recognize these as precursor earthquakes, clear warning that something major is about to happen. But the Romans don't have seismologists. They don't understand that these tremors are the mountain preparing to explode. Each tremor represents rock fracturing underground, gas escaping, pressure seeking release. Some wells and springs in the city start behaving oddly. Water levels drop suddenly. Some wells that had plenty of water this morning are nearly dry by noon. This is another warning sign. The underground water system is being disrupted by the rising magma beneath the volcano. But again, without modern geological knowledge, people just see it as an inconvenience, not a warning. They complain about the water shortage, perhaps blame it on someone using too much water, and move on with their day. A few people, maybe those who are more observant, more sensitive, or simply more anxious by nature, start feeling genuinely uneasy. They can't articulate why exactly. The tremors aren't that bad. The water shortage is annoying but not catastrophic. But something feels wrong. The air feels different, heavier somehow, more oppressive. The usual sea breeze that cools the city hasn't arrived today. The heat is building more than usual. The animals are definitely acting strange. These anxious people might talk to their families. Should we leave the city for a while, just to be safe? But most families dismiss these concerns. Leave the city? And go where? And for how long? They have businesses to run, work to do, lives to live. You can't just abandon everything because of a few tremors and some nervous dogs. That would be an overreaction. Everything will be fine. It always has been. Around noon, people gather for lunch as usual. The streets are busy with people moving about. The forum is crowded with citizens conducting business, making deals, discussing politics. The baths are filling up with people who want to relax in the hot water. Life continues normally despite the subtle warning signs. This is human nature. We normalize even unusual circumstances. We assume that the patterns of the past will continue into the future. Disaster has never struck Pompeii before, so why would it strike today? But then, around 1 p.m., everything changes. The tremors that have been happening all morning suddenly intensify dramatically. The ground doesn't just shake, it heaves violently, knocking people off their feet. Pottery falls from shelves and shatters. Some older buildings, already weakened by the 62 AD earthquake, start to crack and crumble. People scream, run into the streets, don't know what to do. This is different from anything they've experienced before. This is genuinely frightening. And then, Mount Vesuvius explodes. The sound is beyond description. Imagine the loudest thunder you've ever heard, multiplied 1,000 times, continuous, overwhelming, coming from the very bones of the earth. It's a sound that you don't just hear, you feel it in your chest, in your skull, in every cell of your body. It's the sound of the world ending. The top of the mountain literally blows off. A massive eruption column shoots upward at hundreds of miles per hour, carrying gas, ash, and rock fragments. The column rises impossibly high, of 100,000 feet into the stratosphere, higher than any aircraft will fly for nearly 2 millennia. The column is so dense, so full of material, that it blocks the sun completely. Within minutes, Pompeii goes from bright afternoon sunshine to dark as night. People who were going about their normal midday activities suddenly find themselves plunged into darkness. Not gradual darkness like evening approaching, instant, complete darkness, as if someone had blown out the sun like a candle. The psychological impact is immense. This isn't natural. This isn't normal. Something terrible is happening. Something unprecedented. Something apocalyptic. The fear is instant and overwhelming. Then the sound intensifies even further. The continuous roar of the eruption is punctuated by deafening explosions as gas-rich magma fragments violently. Each explosion sounds like the entire world is cracking apart. The ground shakes continuously now, not in discrete tremors, but in constant, sickening motion. Standing upright is difficult. Walking is nearly impossible. Everything solid seems to have become liquid, unstable, unreliable. And then the pumice starts falling. At first, small pieces, like gravel from the sky. Then larger. Then fist-sized chunks. Then even larger. The pumice is volcanic rock so full of gas bubbles that it's lightweight for its size and can even float on water. But it's still rock, and it's still falling from thousands of feet up, and it's still hot, hundreds of degrees. Being hit by falling pumice hurts. It can cause serious injuries, and it keeps falling, accumulating rapidly on the ground, on roofs, everywhere. The city descends into absolute chaos. People run into the streets, then realize the streets are dangerous. Pumice is falling everywhere. They retreat into buildings, but roofs aren't safe either. The pumice accumulates, gets heavier, threatens to collapse roofs. There's nowhere truly safe. Some people try to shield themselves with anything they can find: wooden planks, furniture, cloth. Some try to collect family members who are scattered across the city. Some just stand frozen, unable to process what's happening, their minds refusing to accept this impossible reality. The air becomes hard to breathe. Fine ash particles fill the atmosphere, getting into eyes, noses, mouths, lungs. People cough, choke, try to cover their faces with cloth. The smell is overwhelming. Sulfur dioxide from the volcano, the rotten egg smell of volcanic gases, mixing with dust and smoke. Some people vomit from the smell and the fear. Others are hyperventilating from panic. The sensory overload is complete. You can't see properly in the darkness. You can't breathe properly in the ash-filled air. You can't hear properly over the roar of the eruption. You can't think properly in the terror. This is when people make their crucial decisions. Decisions that will determine who lives and who dies. Some decide to flee immediately. They grab whatever they can carry and run for the city gates. Others decide to shelter in place, thinking this will pass, but waiting inside is safer than running through falling pumice. Still others are paralyzed by fear and indecision, unable to choose, frozen in the moment. Each decision seems rational in the circumstances. Each will have consequences no one can predict. As the eruption intensifies, the people of Pompeii are forced to make impossible choices. Every decision could mean the difference between life and death. But nobody knows which choice is correct. There's no precedent for this. No one has experience with volcanic eruptions of this magnitude. Everyone is improvising, guessing, hoping. Those who decide to flee face immediate challenges. The roads out of Pompeii are quickly clogged with refugees. Thousands of people have the same idea: get out of the city, get away from the volcano, find safety elsewhere. But where is safe? Which direction should you go? The volcano is to the north, so most people head south toward the sea or east away from the mountain. The roads in those directions become packed with humanity. People on foot, people with carts piled high with possessions, people on horses, all trying to move faster than the crowd allows. The wealthy have advantages in this exodus. They have horses, which can move faster than walking. They have slaves who can carry possessions and help clear the way. They have money that might buy passage on ships if they can reach the harbor. But even wealth has limits when nature is attacking. Your expensive home means nothing when the roof is collapsing. Your gold jewelry won't stop pumice from falling on your head. In disaster, some advantages persist, but everyone is vulnerable. Families struggle to stay together in the chaos. Parents clutching children's hands, trying not to lose them in the crowd. Elderly family members who can't walk fast enough being supported by younger relatives. Some families make the agonizing decision to split up. The young and healthy will flee quickly, while the old and slow will shelter in place. They promise to reunite later if possible. Many of these promises will never be kept. The conditions make fleeing extraordinarily difficult. Visibility is near zero. The air is thick with ash and pumice. It's dark as night despite being early afternoon. The falling pumice hits you constantly, small stones pelting your head, shoulders, back. Each impact hurts. Some people are seriously injured by larger pieces of pumice. The ash gets in your eyes, making it hard to see even in the limited light. It gets in your nose and mouth despite your best efforts to cover your face. You're breathing volcanic particles with every breath,
your lungs filling with ash. The ground is becoming treacherous. As pumice accumulates, it creates an unstable, shifting surface. Walking becomes like walking through deep sand, exhausting, slow, frustrating. The pumice is also hot, not hot enough to burn through shoes immediately, but warm enough to be uncomfortable. People slip and fall, ankles twist on the uneven surface. The elderly and children struggle most. What should be a few hours' walk to safety becomes an ordeal that many won't complete. Meanwhile, those who decided to shelter in place are facing their own challenges. They've retreated into their homes or other buildings, hoping the walls and roofs will protect them. They gather in interior rooms, away from windows and outer walls. Families huddle together. Some pray to their household gods, making offerings, begging for protection. Some are simply quiet, holding each other, waiting for this nightmare to end. The sound is relentless. The eruption roar never stops. Pumice hitting the roof sounds like hail, but louder, more persistent. Occasionally, there's a crash as a neighboring building collapses under the weight of accumulated pumice. Each crash makes everyone flinch, wonder if their building will be next. The walls shake with each explosion from the volcano. Dust falls from the ceiling. Cracks appear in walls.
Everything feels unstable, as if the entire building might come apart at any moment. The pumice begins to enter the buildings. It pours through roof tiles, through windows, through any opening. People try to block openings with furniture, cloth, anything. But the pumice keeps coming. It accumulates on floors. It fills rooms. People are forced to retreat to higher floors as lower floors become impassable. But this creates a new danger. As the pumice accumulates outside, the weight on the structure increases. Roofs sag, walls bulge outward. Buildings are being buried alive, crushed under the weight of volcanic material. Some people who initially chose to shelter decide to flee. They emerge from their buildings into chaos and darkness. The streets are now covered in several feet of pumice. Walking is nearly impossible. The air is even worse than before, thicker with ash, harder to breathe. They immediately regret leaving shelter, but can't go back. The way is blocked. They struggle through the streets, hoping to find a way out, hoping it's not too late. Others who fled initially, exhausted by the difficult journey and uncertain where safety lies, decide to take shelter along the route. They duck into buildings, thinking they'll rest for a moment, then continue. Some never leave these temporary shelters. The decision to rest becomes the decision to stay, and staying becomes fatal. Down at the harbor, a desperate scene unfolds. Hundreds of people have fled to the port, hoping to escape by sea. But the sea is not safe. The eruption has disturbed the water. Waves are chaotic, unpredictable. The air over the water is just as full of ash and pumice as over land. Most ship captains refuse to sail in these conditions. It would be suicide. A few brave or desperate captains do agree to take passengers, charging exorbitant fees, packing people onto boats designed for cargo, not passengers. One of these captains is trying to help is Pliny the Elder, the famous Roman naturalist and naval commander. He's stationed across the bay with the Roman fleet. When he sees the eruption begin, he orders ships to sail toward Pompeii and nearby towns to evacuate people. It's a rescue mission that will cost him his life. He'll die from ash inhalation while trying to save others. His nephew, Pliny the Younger, watches from safety and later writes the only eyewitness account that survives, describing the eruption column that will be named after him, a Plinian eruption. Back in Pompeii, as the afternoon wears on, conditions continue to deteriorate. The pumice is now several feet deep in many areas. Buildings continue to collapse. The air is increasingly unbreathable. Some people are dying already, suffocated by ash, killed by falling pumice, crushed by collapsing buildings. overwhelmed by heart attacks or panic. The death toll is climbing steadily, and the worst is still to come. People who are still alive, whether sheltering or fleeing, are making moment-by-moment decisions. Should we move to a different room? Should we try to leave now? Should we wait longer? Every choice could be fatal. There's no right answer, no expert to consult, no clear path to safety. Everyone is improvising, operating on instinct and hope, praying to gods they're not sure are listening. As evening approaches, though telling time is nearly impossible in the darkness, exhaustion sets in. People have been in crisis mode for hours. The adrenaline is fading. Bodies and minds are shutting down. Some people simply lie down where they are, too tired to continue fighting. Others keep moving through pure willpower, refusing to give up. Families cling to each other. Strangers help each other or ignore each other depending on their character. Humanity is on full display, the best and the worst of what people can be under extreme stress. The night of August 24th is approaching. The eruption has been going on for about 7 hours now. Pompeii is being buried. Thousands are already dead. Thousands more will die in the hours to come. The survivors, those still alive, still fighting, still hoping, don't know that the worst is yet to come. They think if they can just survive the falling pumice, they'll be okay. They don't know about the pyroclastic flows that are coming, the superheated clouds of gas and ash that move at hundreds of miles per hour and kill everything they touch. Those flows will come in the early morning hours of August 25th, and when they do, almost everyone still in Pompeii will die. Night falls on Pompeii, though calling it night is almost meaningless. The eruption has made it dark as night since early afternoon. The sun has been completely blocked by the ash cloud. The only light comes from the volcano itself, a hellish red glow from the eruption column, occasional flashes from volcanic lightning, and the orange glow of hot pumice still falling from the sky. It's not the darkness of a normal night. It's an oppressive, unnatural darkness that presses down on everything and everyone. The pumice continues falling relentlessly. By now, it's accumulated to depths of 6 to 9 feet in many parts of the city. Roofs that were merely sagging earlier are now collapsing under the impossible weight. The sound of buildings falling punctuates the continuous roar of the eruption. Each collapse sends up a cloud of dust and ash. Some collapses kill people sheltering inside. The beautiful houses, the elaborate public buildings, the temples and shops, all being crushed and buried. Those still alive in the city are in desperate circumstances. If you're sheltering in a building, you're now in upper floors or on roofs because the lower floors are full of pumice. The buildings are groaning under the strain. Every tremor, and the tremors are continuous, threatens to bring the whole structure down. You're huddled with whatever family or friends are with you. Maybe you're praying. Maybe you're just holding each other. Maybe you're past praying, past hoping, just existing in a state of exhausted terror. The air is almost unbreathable now. Even with cloth covering your nose and mouth, you're inhaling volcanic ash with every breath. Your throat is raw, your lungs burn. You cough constantly, trying to expel the ash, but it just keeps coming. Some people's lungs are already seriously damaged. They're wheezing, struggling for air, drowning in ash even though they're not underwater. Some are dying from respiratory failure, suffocating slowly in the toxic air. If you're among those who fled and are still traveling, you're in a nightmare of biblical proportions. You've been walking for hours, through pumice that's now waist-deep in places. Every step is exhausting. Your legs burn with fatigue. You're covered in ash. It's in your hair, your clothes, coating your skin. You look like a ghost. Everyone looks like ghosts. Grey figures moving through grey darkness. The landscape is unrecognizable. Familiar landmarks are buried or destroyed. You think you know where you are, but everything looks the same. Just grey ash and falling pumice everywhere. People are getting lost, even on roads they've travelled hundreds of times. Some are walking in circles without realising it. Others have simply stopped, sat down in the ash, too exhausted to continue. Some of these people will never get up again. Families that stayed together early on are being separated by the extreme conditions. A child can't keep up and falls behind. An elderly person collapses from exhaustion. In the darkness and chaos, it's easy to lose people. Parents are screaming their children's names into the darkness. The screams mix with the roar of the eruption and are lost. Some families will be reunited. Many won't. Down at the harbour, the scene is apocalyptic. Hundreds of people are trapped there, unable to get ships, unable to go back through the city, just waiting and hoping. They're pressed against the seawall, trying to get as far from the falling pumice as possible. Some are in boathouses, which offer minimal shelter. The sea is rough, dangerous, but some people are so desperate they're trying to swim or float on debris, thinking anywhere is better than here. Most of these people will die, either drowning in the rough seas or overcome by the same dangers they're fleeing. Among those at the harbour are wealthy families who thought their money would save them. They offered fortunes to ship captains to take them away. But no amount of money can make ships appear that aren't there, or make conditions safe when they're not. Wealth is meaningless here. A rich man dies as easily as a poor man when a pyroclastic flow hits. The psychological state of the survivors is beyond what most humans ever experience. This isn't normal fear or stress. This is existential terror sustained for hours. Your body can only produce so much adrenaline. Eventually, you reach a state of exhausted numbness, where fear becomes just background noise, where your mind starts to dissociate from what's happening. Some people are no longer fully rational. They're making bizarre decisions, or no decisions at all, just moving on autopilot. Religious faith is being tested in real time. Some people's faith is strengthened. They pray harder, louder, more desperately, certain that the gods will save them if they're devout enough. Others are losing faith. If the gods exist and are good, why is this happening? What did Pompeii do to deserve this? Some people are bargaining with the gods, promising anything: sacrifices, temples, changed behavior, if only they survive. Around midnight, about 11 hours after the eruption began, the character of the eruption changes. The steady fountain of material shooting upward starts to falter. The eruption column that has been rising steadily for hours is becoming unstable. It's simply too heavy to sustain. The column starts to collapse, falling back toward Earth. This is the beginning of the end for Pompeii. When an eruption column collapses, it creates pyroclastic flows, ground-hugging avalanches of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments. These flows can move at speeds over 100 kilometers per hour. The temperature can exceed 400 degrees Celsius. Nothing survives direct contact with a pyroclastic flow. Trees are vaporized, stone buildings explode from the heat, living beings die instantly. The first pyroclastic flows from Vesuvius miss Pompeii, devastating areas northwest of the volcano. The towns of Herculaneum and Aplantis are destroyed in minutes. But Pompeii, being farther away and in a slightly different direction, is spared, for now.
The people in Pompeii don't know how lucky they are. They don't know that towns just a few miles away have ceased to exist. They don't know that the same fate awaits them in just a few hours. As the night progresses toward dawn, exhaustion is universal among the survivors. Those who've been fleeing for 12 hours or more are at the absolute end of their endurance. Many have simply stopped, unable to take another step. They lie down in the ash, thinking they'll rest for a moment, then continue. Most of them will never get up. Those sheltering in buildings are past the point of rational thought. They're just enduring, moment to moment, hoping each moment isn't their last. Some people are dying now from the accumulated effects of the disaster. The toxic air, the stress, the physical exhaustion, the injuries, all taking their toll. Hearts are failing, lungs are giving out, bodies are shutting down. People are dying not from being hit by something or crushed by something, but simply from the physiological impossibility of surviving in these conditions for this long. And still the pumice falls, still the volcano roars, still the darkness persists. The survivors who remain alive have endured over 12 hours of catastrophe. They've survived longer than many, but for most of them,
Survival is about to end. As August 25th dawns, then no one can see the dawn through the ash cloud. The pyroclastic flows are coming for Pompeii. The city has a few hours left. Most of its people have minutes. Around 6:30 a.m. on August 25th, approximately 17.5 hours after the eruption began, the moment that will end Pompeii arrives. Most people who are still alive in or near the city are in a state of exhausted desperation. They've survived the night, survived the falling pumice, survived when thousands have already died. Some might even be feeling a fragile hope. If we've made it this far, maybe we'll make it through. Maybe the worst is over. They're wrong. The worst is just beginning. High on Mount Vesuvius, the eruption column that has been pumping material into the stratosphere for nearly 18 hours finally collapses completely. The column, miles high and containing billions of tons of ash, gas, and rock, becomes too heavy for the eruption energy to sustain. It falls. And when it falls, it creates the deadliest phenomenon in volcanology, a series of massive pyroclastic flows. These aren't like anything the survivors have experienced so far. The pumice fall was terrible, but survivable if you found shelter. The pyroclastic flows are unsurvivable. They're avalanches of superheated volcanic material, moving at speeds up to 180 kilometers per hour, faster than any human can run, faster than horses can gallop. The temperature inside these flows ranges from 300 to 800 degrees Celsius. At these temperatures, water in human tissue instantly vaporizes. Death is instantaneous. The first major flow that reaches Pompeii arrives like a wall of boiling darkness. Those who see it coming, and in the dim, ash-filled dawn, not many do, have seconds to react. Not enough time to run, not enough time to hide, barely enough time to think a final thought or say a final prayer. The flow moves down the mountain, follows the topography, pours into the Pompeii Valley, and engulfs the city. The people still alive in Pompeii die instantly. The superheated gas penetrates everywhere, through doorways, windows, cracks in walls. There's no protection against it. The temperature is so extreme that exposed flesh essentially vaporizes. Clothing catches fire. Wooden doors burst into flame. The people don't burn to death. They die too quickly for that. They die from the instant shock of extreme heat hitting their bodies, from their lungs being seared by superheated gas, from their brains literally cooking inside their skulls. Death comes in mid-breath, mid-thought, mid-motion. The archaeological record shows this with heartbreaking clarity. People are frozen in their final moments, a family huddled together, a person covering their face with cloth, someone curled in fetal position, a mother sheltering children with her body. These aren't people who are gradually buried and suffocated. These are people who died instantaneously and were then entombed in the position they died in. The pyroclastic flow doesn't just kill, it preserves. The people who die are immediately buried under the ash and pumice that flows with the deadly gas. The hot volcanic material settles around them, encases them, forming a perfect mold of their bodies at the moment of death. When their bodies eventually decompose over the following centuries, they leave hollow cavities in the hardened ash, perfect negative molds showing exactly what they looked like when they died. This is what archaeologists discovered in the 1800s when they started pouring plaster into these cavities. The plaster casts they created show faces contorted in final agony, bodies in positions suggesting desperate attempts to breathe or protect loved ones, hands reaching out, arms covering faces, people holding each other. The casts are some of the most moving and disturbing artifacts in archaeology. They're not just remains, they're moments of death frozen in time. Some specific casts tell stories that break your heart. There's a dog, chained up and unable to escape, captured in the moment of its final struggle against its collar. There's a pregnant woman, hands on her belly, protecting the child she'll never deliver. There are two people holding each other tightly, lovers, family members, or just two people refusing to die alone. There's a person clutching a bag of coins, wealth that proved completely useless. The pyroclastic flows continue for hours. 6 major surges hit Pompeii and the surrounding area. Each one deposits more material, buries the city deeper. The flows don't all come from exactly the same direction, so they kill people who survived earlier flows by sheltering in different locations. By the time the eruption finally begins to subside, probably late on August 25th, Pompeii is buried under 4 to 6 meters of volcanic material. The city has essentially disappeared from the landscape. The death toll is staggering, but impossible to calculate precisely. Pompeii had about 20,000 residents. Many fled and survived. We know this because the city wasn't at full population capacity when excavated. But thousands died. Archaeological excavations have found about 1,150 bodies in Pompeii and the immediate surrounding area. Many more remain unexcavated, buried deeper than archaeologists have dug. And many bodies were likely completely vaporized or destroyed by the extreme conditions, leaving no remains at all. The surrounding region suffered similarly. Herculaneum, closer to the volcano, was hit by pyroclastic flows earlier in the night and completely buried under up to 20 meters of material. Stabiae, to the south, was also destroyed. Oplontis, with its luxury villas, was buried. The entire Bay of Naples region was devastated. What had been a prosperous, heavily populated area was transformed into a grey wasteland of volcanic debris. When the eruption finally stops, probably on August 26th, an eerie quiet descends. The roar that had been constant for over 30 hours finally ceases. The pumice stops falling. The ash begins to settle. The sky gradually clears, though it will be weeks before it's fully clear. The amount of material ejected into the atmosphere was so massive that it affected weather worldwide. But locally, immediately, there's just silence and devastation. Survivors who had fled far enough away begin to emerge from wherever they sheltered. They return cautiously, fearfully, to find their world transformed. Where there had been cities, towns, villas, farms, there's now a grey, featureless landscape of volcanic ash and pumice. Pompeii isn't visible. It's completely buried. Vesuvius looks different. The top of the mountain is gone, blown away by the eruption. The familiar landmarks that people had used for navigation all their lives have disappeared. The survivors search desperately for loved ones. They call names into the emptiness. They dig frantically in the ash, hoping to find someone alive. A few people are found alive, somehow having survived in air pockets or sheltered locations. But most searches end in failure. The people who didn't flee are gone, buried under meters of volcanic material, dead and entombed. The psychological impact on survivors is devastating. They've lost everything: homes, families, friends, possessions, their entire community. They're refugees with nowhere to go. Many are injured. All are traumatized. Some will never mentally recover from what they've experienced. They'll live the rest of their lives haunted by memories of those terrible days when their world ended. The Roman government responds as quickly as ancient communications allow. Emperor Titus, who has only recently become emperor after his father Vespasian's death, organizes relief efforts. He sends money, supplies, and administrators to help survivors. He provides funds for rebuilding, though not for Pompeii itself, which is too deeply buried to salvage. He's genuinely trying to help, and his efforts are appreciated, but no amount of imperial aid can restore what was lost. Pompeii, the beautiful resort city, the Roman paradise, is gone. Not damaged, not partially destroyed. Gone. Erased. Buried so completely that future generations won't even know exactly where it was. The city that woke up on August 23rd expecting another ordinary day, that went to bed that night with plans for the future, is now entombed under volcanic rock, silent and still, waiting nearly 1,700 years to be rediscovered. In the immediate aftermath, some survivors return to Pompeii trying to salvage what they can. They're looking for valuables, for family heirlooms, for anything that can be recovered from the ruins. They dig through the ash and pumice, searching for familiar landmarks, trying to remember where their homes were. Some tunnels found by archaeologists centuries later were likely created by these early treasure hunters, desperately digging toward what they remembered. But the task is overwhelming. The city is buried under 12 to 20 feet of volcanic material. Without modern excavation equipment, digging through this by hand is nearly impossible. And the landscape has changed so dramatically that navigation is difficult. Where was your street, your house, that shop you knew? Everything looks the same, just endless gray volcanic debris. Some people give up quickly. Others persist for weeks before finally accepting that their possessions, their homes, their former lives are irretrievable. Most survivors move on. They relocate to other cities, Naples, Rome, wherever they have connections or can find work. They rebuild their lives as best they can. They tell their children and grandchildren about Pompeii, about the beautiful city that existed before the mountain exploded. These stories become family memories, passed down through generations, though the details fade and blur with time. For a while, people remember where Pompeii was. Maps from the decades after the eruption still show its location. But as years turn to decades, and decades turn to centuries, the exact location becomes uncertain. The survivors die, their children die, their grandchildren die. The people who have personal memories of Pompeii are all gone. What remains are second-hand stories, third-hand accounts, vague historical references. Nature begins to reclaim the area. Grass grows over the volcanic debris. The ash and pumice, initially loose and unstable, gradually compact and harden. Soil accumulates through natural processes, dead plants decomposing, wind depositing dust, rain bringing sediment. Within a century, the burial site looks like natural countryside. Small plants, then larger bushes, then eventually trees grow where Pompeii's streets once bustled with life. Vesuvius erupts again and again. The volcano hasn't finished with the region. Major eruptions occur in 203 AD, 472 AD, 512 AD, 1631, 1906, and most recently in 1944. Some of these eruptions are nearly as powerful as the one that destroyed Pompeii. Each eruption deposits more material on the region, buries Pompeii deeper, makes the lost city harder to find. The volcano that killed Pompeii also protects its secret, covering the evidence of its crime with layer after layer of new volcanic material. During the Middle Ages, the area where Pompeii lies buried is farmland. People live and work here, plant crops, raise animals, build houses and barns. They're completely unaware that beneath their feet lies a perfectly preserved Roman city. If they dig deep enough while planting or building, they sometimes hit ancient walls or find pottery fragments. But they just assume these are random old ruins, nothing special. Italy is full of Roman ruins. There's no reason to think these are different. The name Pompeii doesn't completely disappear from historical memory. Ancient Roman texts mention the city, Pliny the Younger's famous eyewitness account of the eruption, various other historical references. Medieval and Renaissance scholars who read these texts know that a city called Pompeii existed somewhere near Vesuvius. But knowing something existed and finding it are very different things. Without specific knowledge of where to dig, in a region covered by meters of volcanic material and centuries of natural accumulation, finding Pompeii is nearly impossible. In 1592, something interesting happens. An architect named Domenico Fontana is building an underground water channel in the area. His workers tunnel through part of ancient Pompeii without realizing what they've found. They encounter walls with inscriptions and painted decorations. Fontana notes these findings but doesn't recognize their significance. He just thinks they're some old Roman buildings, interesting but not particularly important. The tunnel is completed and the discovery is forgotten. The real rediscovery begins in 1748. Workers are excavating in the area around Herculaneum, which had been found earlier. By accident, their digging extends into Pompeii. This time, someone recognizes what's been found. This isn't just random ruins. This is a whole city, preserved under volcanic ash. The news spreads quickly. The King of Naples, Charles of Bourbon, becomes personally interested and sponsors systematic excavation. The early excavations are more like treasure hunting than archaeology. Archaeological science, as we know it, doesn't exist yet. The workers are looking for statues, jewelry, beautiful objects that can decorate royal palaces or be sold to collectors. They dig tunnels, grab whatever looks valuable, and don't pay much attention to context or careful documentation. Many artifacts are damaged or destroyed in this process. But despite the crude methods, what they find is extraordinary. Buildings are intact, walls still standing, roofs collapsed but structure preserved. Frescoes still have vivid colors after 1,700 years of burial. Mosaics are still in place, as beautiful as the day they were created. Streets are still there, still showing the ruts worn by ancient cartwheels. Shops still have their counters and storage jars. Houses still have furniture, dishes, everyday objects sitting where people left them when they fled or died. Europe is astonished. Roman ruins weren't new. The Colosseum, the aqueducts, various temples and monuments still stood throughout Italy. But those were ruins, weathered, damaged, stripped of decoration, missing roofs and internal elements. Pompeii is different. Pompeii is whole, or as whole as any ancient city could be after 1,700 years of burial. You can see not just grand public architecture, but ordinary daily life. You can see how regular Romans actually lived, not just how emperors wanted to be remembered. The discoveries continue through the 18th and 19th centuries. Excavation techniques gradually improve. By the mid-1800s, archaeologists are starting to understand that everything at Pompeii, not just beautiful objects but ordinary things, contains valuable information. Cooking pots, oil lamps, graffiti on walls, the layout of rooms, all of it tells stories about Roman life. The site becomes one of the most important archaeological locations in the world. In 1863, Giuseppe Fiorelli becomes director of excavations and revolutionizes the approach. Instead of digging tunnels looking for valuables, he excavates systematically, carefully exposing buildings from above, preserving context. He also develops the technique of pouring plaster into the cavities left by decomposed bodies. This creates the famous casts showing people in their death poses, one of the most powerful and disturbing aspects of Pompeii. These casts transform how people think about Pompeii. Before, it was an interesting archaeological site showing Roman architecture and art. After the casts, it becomes something more, a human tragedy made visible. These aren't just ancient ruins. These are people who died terrified, who tried to protect their children, who held each other as death arrived. The casts make the disaster personal in a way that broken buildings never could. The excavations continue into the 20th and 21st centuries. About 2/3 of Pompeii has been uncovered so far. The remaining third is deliberately left buried, waiting for better excavation techniques and more advanced analytical methods that can extract more information from the site. Each new discovery still makes headlines. Just a few years ago, archaeologists found a fast food restaurant with food still visible in the storage jars. The city still has secrets to reveal. But Pompeii also faces modern challenges. The volcanic ash that preserved the city so perfectly also makes it vulnerable once exposed. Rain erodes frescoes. Sun fades colors. Pollution damages surfaces. Tourism, millions of visitors annually, wears away ancient stones with millions of footsteps. Some buildings have collapsed in recent decades, destroyed by exposure after surviving 2,000 years of burial. Preserving Pompeii is an ongoing battle, requiring constant funding, care, and scientific innovation. Pompeii teaches us lessons that remain relevant 2 millennia after its destruction. The first and most obvious lesson is about nature's power. We build cities, develop technology, create complex civilizations. We feel safe, secure, in control. Then, a mountain explodes, or an earthquake strikes, or a tsunami arrives, and we remember how fragile our control actually is. Nature doesn't care about our buildings, our technology, our civilizations. Natural forces operate according to physical laws, indifferent to human concerns. But Pompeii's deeper lessons require more thought. Consider this. The Pompeians lived at the base of a volcano and didn't know it. Vesuvius hadn't erupted in living memory, perhaps not for hundreds or even 1,000 years. It was just a mountain, familiar, normal, safe. They didn't know they were living next to a ticking time bomb. They couldn't know, because the danger was invisible to them, beyond their scientific understanding. We're the same. We live with risks we don't recognize or fully understand. Climate change, pandemic diseases, economic fragility, political instability, technological risks we can't predict. We know intellectually that these threats exist, but we live as though they don't. We assume tomorrow will be like today. We make long-term plans as though the future is certain. Usually we're right, until suddenly we're not. Pompeii reminds us that normalcy is temporary and fragile. The people eating lunch on August 24th thought it was just another day. By nightfall, their world had ended. This isn't meant to make you paranoid or fatalistic. It's meant to make you present, grateful, aware. The peaceful day you're having right now is a gift. The people you love are here now. The moment you're experiencing is precious precisely because it's temporary. Another lesson. Wealth and status don't protect you from disaster. The wealthy Pompeians in their elaborate villas died alongside poor people in their cramped apartments. The volcanic flow didn't check your social class before killing you. Some wealthy people escaped because they had horses and resources to flee quickly. But many didn't. And those who did escape lost everything material they owned. Your possessions, your status, your wealth, all temporary, all vulnerable. This isn't nihilism, it's perspective. Success and wealth are fine goals, but they don't guarantee safety or happiness. What matters more is how you live, how you treat people, what you create, what you love. The Pompeians who are remembered most aren't the richest, but those whose final moments showed love, courage, or compassion. The mother protecting her children, the people holding each other, those who tried to help others. Pompeii also teaches about preservation and memory. The city was completely forgotten for 1,700 years. An entire civilization buried and lost. How much else has been forgotten? How many cities are still buried somewhere, unknown and unmourned? How much human experience has vanished without leaving traces? Most of what humans have ever done is gone, lost to time, unremembered. This makes preservation crucial. Every artifact, every text, every building that survives from the past is precious because so much has been lost. We're custodians of history for future generations. What we preserve today will be the only connection those future people have to our time. Pompeii survived by accident. Volcanic burial happened to preserve what would otherwise have rotted away. Most of history wasn't so lucky. The lesson about impermanence is perhaps most important. Pompeii was prosperous, sophisticated, confident in its future. Then it was gone in 24 hours. The most advanced civilizations, the most powerful empires, the greatest achievements, all temporary. Rome itself, the mightiest empire of the ancient world, fell. Every civilization that has ever existed has eventually ended. Ours will too, somehow, sometime. This isn't depressing if you think about it correctly. Impermanence doesn't negate value. Pompeii's brief existence was meaningful. The beauty they created, the lives they lived, the love and joy and achievement, all real, all valuable, even though it didn't last. We should create and build and love, knowing nothing is permanent, not because nothing matters, but because the temporary nature of existence makes every moment more precious. Pompeii also shows us ourselves in the past. Walking through the ruins, reading the graffiti, seeing the houses and shops,
you realize ancient Romans were remarkably like us. They worried about money. They fell in love. They complained about bad service and high prices. They wrote jokes on bathroom walls. They cared about their families. They enjoyed good food and wine.
They created beauty because beauty matters. 2,000 years hasn't changed human nature fundamentally. This creates connection across time. The Pompeians aren't alien or incomprehensible. They're us, wearing different clothes, speaking a different language, but fundamentally human in the same ways we're human. When you see the plaster cast of the mother sheltering children, you don't need translation or historical context. You understand immediately what you're seeing: love, protection, sacrifice. Human emotions transcend time and culture. The final lesson is about how we face death. The Pompeians didn't choose how they died, but the archaeological record shows they faced death in different ways. Some died trying to protect loved ones. Some died clutching possessions they couldn't bear to leave behind. Some died alone. Some died together. Some faces show agony. Some show something like peace. How we face death reveals who we really are. We don't know when our end will come. Probably not as dramatically as Pompeii's end, but it will come. What matters is how we live knowing that. Do we love the people around us? Do we create things worth creating? Do we help others when we can? Do we appreciate the ordinary moments? The Pompeians teach us through their deaths to value life, to hold nothing back, to be present and grateful. These lessons are written in volcanic ash and bone. They're preserved in plaster casts and frescoed walls. They speak across 2 millennia, teaching anyone willing to listen. Pompeii is more than an archaeological site. It's a memorial, a warning, and a reminder. Remember that we're all vulnerable. Remember that time is limited. Remember that what matters isn't wealth or status, but how we live and love. Remember Pompeii. Now, as evening settles and you prepare for sleep, let's return to Pompeii one final time. Not the Pompeii of disaster, but the Pompeii that exists today. The quiet city that tourists leave when closing time comes, that sits silent under stars, that remembers everything and nothing. Picture Pompeii at twilight. The last visitors are leaving, streaming toward the exits with their cameras and guidebooks. The staff is closing gates, checking that no one has stayed behind, and then, gradually, the city empties. The modern sounds fade. No more voices, no more footsteps, no more camera clicks. Pompeii returns to silence. Night descends slowly. The sky transitions from blue to purple to black. Stars appear one by one, then in crowds. The same stars the ancient Pompeians saw. Constellations haven't changed significantly in 2,000 years. If a resident of ancient Pompeii could somehow see the city now, the stars would be the most familiar thing in a radically changed world. The moon rises, nearly full, casting silver light over the ruins. The ancient stones seem to glow softly, absorbing moonlight, transforming from gray to silver. Shadows become gentle rather than harsh. This is the kindest light for ruins. Moonlight that reveals without exposing, that shows beauty without emphasizing decay. In this light, Pompeii looks almost alive. The forum's columns cast long shadows. The streets seem to wait for pedestrians who never come. The houses look like someone might emerge from doorways at any moment. It's not that the city is haunted. There are no ghosts, no supernatural presences. But it's full of memory, which is almost the same thing.
A breeze rises from the sea, the same sea that bordered ancient Pompeii. The wind moves through the ruins, whistling softly around corners, creating sounds that night guards sometimes misinterpret. The city breathes in its way, not with life, but with the permanent present tense of ruins. Pompeii is always now, always waiting, always between past and present. The temperature drops as night deepens. The volcanic stones that absorbed sun's heat during the day now release it slowly. If you could place your hand on these walls,
They'd be slightly warm, a physical memory of sunlight, held and released. The stones remember warmth, even if they remember nothing else. Vesuvius looms dark against the star-filled sky. The mountain sleeps now, has been sleeping for decades. The last major eruption was 1944, much smaller than the 79 AD catastrophe, but still deadly. Scientists monitor the volcano constantly. Sensors detect every tremor, measure gas emissions, watch for signs that the mountain is waking. 500,000 people live in the danger zone now. If Vesuvius erupts again, evacuation will be necessary. History doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes. In the silence, you can almost hear the ancient city. Not literally, that's impossible, but in imagination, in the space where memory and desire meet, the sounds return. Cartwheels on stone streets, voices calling greetings, water splashing in fountains, children laughing, musicians playing. The ambient sound of a living city, preserved not in stone, but in the human mind that knows such places must have sounded something like this. The houses sit empty, their rooms exposed to sky where roofs once protected them. The frescoed walls still show their painted scenes, gardens, gods, portraits, landscapes. In moonlight, the figures almost seem to move. That painted woman turns her head. That bird takes flight. That god watches. It's tricks of light and shadow, perception shaped by expectation. But it's beautiful, this illusion of life in the dead city. The amphitheater sits massive and silent. 20,000 spectators once filled these seats, and the noise must have been overwhelming. Humanity at its most visceral and excited. Now, absolute silence. A silence so complete it's almost loud, emphasizing how full the space once was. In the street of the casts, behind protective glass, the plaster figures lie in their eternal positions. By day, tourists photograph them, discuss them, feel disturbed by them. By night, with no one watching, they seem different.
not agonized, but peaceful, finally.
They died terribly, yes, but their dying is over. 2,000 years of rest have followed those final moments. If rest is what death brings, they've had plenty of it. Some people imagine Pompeii is sad, tragic, depressing. But that's not quite right. Pompeii is peaceful. The tragedy happened. It's over. What remains is memory, preserved in stone, waiting to teach whoever wants to learn. There's no sadness in the stones themselves. Stones don't mourn. There's just permanence, patience, endurance. A cat walks through the ruins. Cats live in Pompeii, descendants of Roman cats or later arrivals, who knows. This cat doesn't care about history. It's hunting, prowling, being fully present in the only way animals can be. It disappears around a corner, leaving you alone again with the silent city. The night deepens. The moon crosses the sky. The stars wheel in their ancient patterns. The wind continues its patient work, eroding the ruins atom by atom. the way wind has eroded mountains and civilizations since time began. Everything is temporary, even stone, even memory. But tonight, now, Pompeii stands, remembers, teaches. You're not actually in Pompeii, of course. You're in your own bed, in your own time, safe and comfortable. But imagination brings you here, to this quiet place, this intersection of memory and stone. And in imagining it, you receive its gifts, the reminder of impermanence, the teaching about what matters, the permission to rest. Your breathing has slowed without you noticing. In, out, steady, regular, calming. Each breath connects you across time to everyone who has ever lived. We all breathe the same air. We cycled through millennia. Some molecules you're breathing might have been breathed by Pompeians. You share breath across 2,000 years. Share this basic need, this fundamental rhythm. Your body relaxes incrementally. Shoulders drop. Jaw unclenches. Hands unfold. Tension releases. This is wisdom your body has, knowing how to rest, how to let go, how to surrender to sleep's necessary process. You don't have to do anything. Your body knows. Thoughts that were racing have slowed, become quiet, almost stopped. One or two drift past lazily, but they don't catch attention, don't require engagement. Just clouds passing through a quiet sky, interesting but temporary, demanding nothing. In imagined Pompeii, you lie back on ancient stone, surprisingly comfortable, cradling you, connecting you to earth. Above, stars spread in their billions. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. Everything is exactly as it should be. A profound truth settles. Everything passes, including suffering. The Pompeians suffered for hours, but those hours ended. Millennia of peace followed. Whatever you're carrying, stress, worry, pain, fear, will also pass. Nothing stays forever. This too shall pass. This isn't saying nothing matters. It's saying everything matters because everything is temporary. Moments are precious because they're limited. Experience is valuable because it's finite. Life matters because it ends. Your eyes close. You're not sure if you're in Pompeii, or your bed, or both, or neither. It doesn't matter. You're somewhere safe, somewhere peaceful, somewhere sleep can come gently. The moon continues across the sky. The stars wheel. The wind works. The stones hold warmth. The night deepens. Everything is still. Sleep is very close now. That comfortable heaviness spreads through your body. That pleasant fuzziness fills your mind. That gentle darkness approaches, not frightening, but welcoming, like coming home. Gratitude comes, for this day ending peacefully, for this comfort, for being alive now, for the luxury of learning from the past without living through its disasters. Then even gratitude fades. Only sleep remains. In Pompeii, the ruins stand patient in moonlight. The stones hold their warmth. The wind whispers ancient secrets to no one and everyone. The dead sleep their eternal sleep, past all suffering, past all fear, at perfect rest. And you sleep too, deeply, peacefully, completely. No more words needed. No more thoughts needed. Only rest. Only peace. Only the gentle, healing darkness of dreamless sleep. The night continues. Hours pass unmarked, unnoticed. Your body does its restorative work, repairing, renewing, preparing for tomorrow. Your mind processes the day, sorts memories, releases what doesn't need keeping. This is what sleep is for. This necessary work that can only happen in unconsciousness. Dreams may come, gentle and formless, fragments of imagery that mean nothing and everything. Or perhaps no dreams at all, just the deep blank of complete rest. Either way is perfect. Sleep knows what it's doing. Outside your window, the world continues. Stars cross the sky. The moon sets. Dawn will come eventually, bringing a new day with its own concerns and joys. But that's tomorrow. That's not now. Now there's only sleep, only rest, only the peace of letting go. In distant Italy, actual Pompeii stands under its own night sky. Guards walk their rounds. Cameras monitor for intruders. The modern world guards the ancient one. But the ruins don't need guarding. Not really. They've survived 2,000 years. They'll survive longer, or they won't. And either way, they've already taught everything they need to teach. The lessons are received. The stories are told. The dead have spoken across millennia, and the living have listened. Now comes rest for everyone. The ancient dead in their volcanic tomb, the modern visitors in their distant beds, you in your comfortable present. Sleep deepens. You pass through the lighter stages into the profound rest that restores. Your breathing is so slow, so regular, it's almost imperceptible. Your heart beats steadily, patiently, doing its work without supervision. Your body is wise, knowing exactly what it needs. Time loses meaning in deep sleep. Minutes could be hours. Hours could be minutes. There's no way to tell, no reason to care. Clock time is irrelevant. All that matters is rest, deep and complete and healing. The darkness is absolute, but not frightening. This is the darkness of safety, of warmth, of protection. Like being held. Like returning to the original peace before birth, when existence was simple and needs were met and nothing was required of you. Somewhere in this darkness, Pompeii exists still, not as ruins, but as memory. The city lives in the minds of everyone who knows its story. The people who died there are remembered, their final moments preserved, their humanity recognized across impossible spans of time. They're not forgotten. They never will be. And in this remembering, there's peace. The dead wanted to be remembered. Romans cared deeply about memory, about leaving marks that would outlast their mortal lives. The Pompeians achieved this, though not how they intended. They're remembered not for their achievements in life, but for their deaths, for the tragic instant when the mountain ended everything. But remember them also for their lives, for the bread they baked and the wine they drank, for the children they raised and the businesses they ran, for the jokes they told and the friends they loved, for the ordinary human life they lived, day by day, trying to be happy, trying to survive, trying to make meaning in temporary existence. You sleep, carrying these stories with you into unconsciousness. They become part of your dreams, your memory, your understanding of what it means to be human and mortal. Pompeii has given you its final gift, permission to rest, knowing that life is fragile and precious, that death comes to everyone, but that love and beauty and memory can transcend even catastrophe. The deepest part of night arrives.
the hour before dawn, when the world is quietest, when most people sleep most deeply. This is the time of maximum rest, maximum restoration.
Your body and mind are doing their most important work now, the work that happens only in profound unconsciousness. Nothing disturbs you, no noise, no light, no thought. Just the pure experience of rest, which is not really an experience at all, because you're not aware enough to experience anything. This is the closest living people come to non-existence, this deep sleep where consciousness disappears completely. And in this non-existence, you're perfectly safe. More than safe, you're in a state of absolute peace that no waking moment can match. This is the gift of sleep, available every night, renewable and necessary and freely given. Sleep is mercy. Sleep is healing. Sleep is the daily dying that prepares for daily rebirth. The night is ending now, though you don't know it. The eastern sky is beginning to lighten, almost imperceptibly. Stars are fading. The moon has set. Dawn is coming, with its new day, its new challenges and opportunities. But you sleep on. Morning will wake you eventually. Sunlight, alarm, the natural end of sleep's cycle. But for now, you're still deep in rest, still healing, still at peace. When you wake, you'll remember some of this. Fragments about Pompeii, images of ruins and moonlight, feelings of peace and connection. Or maybe you'll remember nothing consciously, but carry it anyway, in the part of mind that holds what matters without needing to articulate it. Either way, Pompeii will have done its work. The dead city will have taught the living about impermanence and presence, about fragility and strength, about the temporary nature of all things and the permanent value of love and memory. Sleep now. Rest completely. Let everything go. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Tonight, there's only this: perfect, complete, necessary rest. The stones of Pompeii hold their secrets. The mountain sleeps. The city sleeps. And you sleep. Deeply, peacefully, perfectly. Good night. Sleep well. Dream peacefully, or don't dream at all. Either is perfect. Everything passes, including the night. But for now, the night is here, wrapping you in darkness and peace and rest. Sleep. Only sleep. Only peace. Only the gentle, healing darkness that restores everything. Sleep deeply. Sleep well. Sleep peacefully. Good night, dear sleeper. Good night, Pompeii. Good night, world. Only sleep now. Only rest. Only peace. Good night.